Good evening and welcome to The Frame, an initiative of Access Framingham. My name is Brendan Fitzpatrick. We start tonight with Tuesday's City Council meeting as the group has unanimously approved the entire slate of recommended projects for the Community Preservation Act funding for fiscal year 2024. The Community Preservation Committee recommended 13 projects totaling just over $3 million for projects related to community housing, recreation, and open space, as well as the preservation of historic structures. 12 of those 13 plans were approved in mid-April by the City Council's Finance Subcommittee, with the one exception being $500,000 for the initial phase of preserving Athenaeum Hall, along with the firehouse adjacent to it. Planners proposed using that funding alongside $1 million in PUD money set aside about 10 years ago to renovate the Athenaeum's exterior. The Finance Subcommittee was previously split 2-2. At-large City Councilor George King and District 4's Michael Cannon were looking for long-term assurances for a plan at the hall before approving the money, while Novel Alexander of District 5 and District 7's Leora Malik approved the proposal as a way to begin momentum for the building's renovation. Tuesday's full City Council meeting, though, saw all 11 members give the green light to the Athenaeum plan.
You know, I'm big on historic preservation and reuse, so I just think this is long overdue, along with some other projects on this list, this building, the Memorial Building.
Cannon reiterated his desire to see the measure passed, adding that the CPA money can help make a long-term plan for the building a reality.
There's been so many starts and so many stops, and I'm hopeful with everything that's in the works that this won't be it. The concerns that we had at the Finance Committee meeting, not speaking for anybody but myself, were really, is this enough? Is this the right amount of money? And is this to, you know, is what's going to come from this?
Most residents who spoke during the meeting were favorable towards the Athenaeum idea, though concerns related to public safety, with asbestos and lead paint potentially being present at the Athenaeum, as well as future parking layouts at the hall, were also raised. The other 12 CPC recommended projects were approved by the City Council without much further discussion. As for the FY25 budget citywide, the Finance Subcommittee has a number of meetings already scheduled for May on the matter. The first pair being held Thursday and Saturday, the 2nd and 4th. Last Thursday, the Planning Board held a public hearing regarding the MBTA Communities Act at the Memorial Building as a way to initiate a process towards meeting state zoning standards. The act mandates that municipalities with MBTA service must have at least one zoning district with multifamily housing permitted as of right, among other requirements, though it does not require that anything actually be built. Framingham is currently in line with the act, though city officials have explained that they could fall out of compliance by year's end. Non-compliance could result in state funding for local initiatives and programs being deducted. Planning Board members were nevertheless confident on Thursday that a solution could be found in the near future.
Everybody reacting to the MBTA Zoning Act should probably sit down and take a deep breath because given what we've inherited from town meeting in terms of the CB zoning and the density that it allows, the density that is required by the state is much lower.
Among the public comments were concerns related to the downtown area's character being put in jeopardy, maintaining sustainable levels of housing density, and ensuring that developments would not get out of hand downtown following the approval of MBTA compliant zoning.
I am as strong a housing proponent as anyone, and I think we need it, but I think we need it to be done right, or else everyone's going to hate what gets built.
Going forward, the Planning Board said they'd work alongside other city officials to provide updates on Framingham's compliance with the MBTA Act. The supplemental budget for the remainder of the 2024 fiscal year in Massachusetts has been signed by Governor Maura Healey after being passed by legislators at the State House, as a large portion is dedicated to the Commonwealth's emergency shelter system. The State Senate and House announced last week that $251 million for shelter costs through June 30th have been approved. That includes money for workforce training, tax credits to companies that offer that job training, rehousing and case management assistance, and more. Up to $175 million for the shelter system's transition into FY25 was included as well, as legislators aim to study the long-term needs of the program. Senators and representatives hope the legislation can get families sheltered through the system and into the workforce in Massachusetts. In a statement released last Thursday, State Senate President and Senator for the 2nd Middlesex and Norfolk District, Karen Spilka, said, quote, "I'm proud that this legislation puts us on a responsible path forward without sacrificing our values of treating families with dignity and respect. This legislative action was warranted because of inaction at the federal level on a challenge of their own creation. Massachusetts has once again shown that we can work together to address complicated issues as we have done today," end quote. Those in the shelter system will be limited to a 9-month stay with circumstantial extensions available as well. Recertification every 60 days will also become required. The governor will now have to get waivers for expedited, temporary, and provisional work authorizations for asylum seekers, refugees, and migrants. That permission will have to come from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. City officials are looking for 7 individuals to volunteer to join the Framingham Economic Development Corporation, or EDC for short. Created by the state legislature, the new group will act as the economic development group for the city in a public and private partnership, according to local officials. Among other duties, the EDC will be able to manage or lease development projects, identify certain areas that are underutilized or under standards, and finance community development projects here in Framingham. The legislation specifically calls for 1 member experienced in financial matters, another in real estate, 1 in municipal government, as well as a pair in individual development, and another 2 chosen from the community in general. Members of the group, unless otherwise approved, will either reside in Framingham or be employed within the city. The application deadline for the EDC is 11:59 p.m. on Friday, May 31st. Full details can be found on the city's website's Form Center at framinghamma.gov. Again, that's framinghamma.gov, and from there, find the Form Center. Additional details on the stories you've seen tonight and others that matter to your community can be found on the newest source for local information, www.theframe.news. Tell your neighbors about where you can read about local events, municipal matters, and more. And be sure to subscribe to our email newsletter to ensure that you never miss a beat with The Frame. Also, if you've got a story idea that you want us to hear about, you're free to reach out to us. Send an email to The Frame at accessfram.tv or leave a voicemail by calling 508-216-0003. Coming up next, in recognition of National Nurses Week, a spotlight on the studies being undertaken by nursing students right here in Framingham at MassBay Community College's new Health Sciences, Early Childhood, and Human Services building. You won't want to miss it. Stick around. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back in, as it's now time for our weekly focus. Every year from May 6th through the 12th, our nation celebrates National Nurses Week, as these medical professionals are recognized for their tireless service and dedication to caring for others. According to the American Nurses Association, the history of National Nurses Week dates back to the 1950s, with the observance dates made permanent in 1994. In anticipation of National Nurses Week, my colleague Mackenzie Wright and I took a visit to Massachusetts Bay Community College's Health Sciences, Early Childhood, and Human Services building in Framingham, which opened earlier this year. Nursing classes have been underway for months now, with students eager to enter the workforce. Mackenzie joins us now to share the story. Mackenzie?
Brendan, what makes MassBay's new building unique is that it's home to some of the most state-of-the-art, world-class nursing skills labs and simulation technology in the world, which you'll see in just a moment. This leading high-tech equipment is designed to give their students one-of-a-kind hands-on training that will better prepare them for their healthcare careers.
I feel like I have like an elephant sitting on my chest.
Meet Hal. He's not your average mannequin.
Let me take a listen. I'm just going to touch, okay?
Hal is what you call a high-fidelity simulation mannequin.
Yeah, I know. I'm really still having trouble breathing.
As these students work together to understand and manage Hal's condition, his symptoms and responses are happening in real time, just out of sight.
I'm really starting to feel kind of wheezy. We could make him, breathe and have different sounding. We can make him sound like he's having an asthma attack. We can make him have a seizure.
Hal can simulate strokes or heart attacks. He can sweat, cry, and run a fever. He can even turn blue from a lack of oxygen. All at the hands of Heather Monroe, a nurse of 38 years and interim director of simulation here at MassBay Community College in Framingham. Seated just beyond this glass window, Heather follows a pre-planned template of a medical scenario for Hal, with a specific theme for students to respond to.
I'll sort of let the simulation kind of just go and progress. If I want a certain goal achieved, and maybe the students aren't getting there on a timely fashion, they might need a little bit of a cueing.
I don't think the nurse last night said if I needed it, maybe they could give me something to help me breathe.
We just did a simulation, and we were just talking about it. It was amazing of how realistic it was. You were really put in a situation where you have to think and act quick, and I mean, it's like top-notch stuff. Like, everything looks real, the mannequins look real, and that kind of really helps you to better prepare yourself.
Natalie's in the second semester of her first year here in MassBay's Associate Degree Nursing Program.
What do we want to know about this patient?
Does he have any history of respiratory COPD?
We want students to, when they get to the clinical settings, be at least competent in what they're doing. So that's why they can come to simulation, which is a safe space. It's a physically safe space, it's a psychological safe space. And I tell students all the time, come here, make mistakes, then we'll learn from them so that when you can go to the clinical unit, you sort of have a little bit better appreciation and feel a little bit more relaxed in what you're doing.
Within MassBay's Simulation Center, these mannequins are just one piece of the puzzle.
You assess for a facial droop, you have them smile, okay? And you can kind of see one side facial droop.
This is MassBay's immersion room. Today we're in the back of an ambulance transporting a patient who's having a stroke, going over important procedures along the way.
But if you're having bleeding onto the brain, do you really want to give a blood thinner? No, because that's going to make you bleed even more, okay?
Preparations are still underway to get this room geared up to its full potential for student learning. Without these state-of-the-art projectors and other gear, this room would look like, well, any other. But there's no limit to the environments this technology can simulate.
Say you're an EMS person responding to, an accident at the highway. We can make it look like a highway kind of pile-up car crash. Not only will you visually be cued that there's an accident scene, there's scent diffusers that come from the ceiling, and you buy different scents. So we can make maybe the smell of like burning rubber, smoke.
The idea here is that the more exposure students have to these simulated sights, smells, and experiences, the more likely they are to maintain focus and comfortability when faced with the real thing.
There's a lot of clinical reasoning and critical thinking skills. This is an applied science. It's one thing to kind of memorize what normal vital signs are, but then what do you do with that information? How do you apply it to your patient? And then what do you do if your patient doesn't have normal vital signs? And then how do you kind of take that from there and go forth?
Should be breathing better shortly.
I can't even count how many mistakes I made both in clinical and labs. We had a great instructor who helped us, to guided us, and I think better preparing us. And I think this is the place where, yes, like make the mistakes you need to so that in the real world you got it all down.
Does he have an IV?
Yep.
All right, do we know if that IV is patent?
The medication is called Lasix. It's a diuretic. So when we give it to you, we're going to give it to you in your IV you already have, and it's just going to help get rid of some of the fluid you have in your lungs and a little bit of the edema you have going on, the swelling, okay?
At a time when the healthcare field continues to face a shortage of workers, these students are eager to bring their skills and knowledge to a workforce dedicated to caring for others.
I realized that my calling was really just helping people, trying to make a difference. I know that sounds, that's what everyone says, but that's what really called me to be a nurse.
That's a little bit better.
Okay, that's good. Let's see what oxygen is up to now.
According to MassBay, HAL is the world's first mannequin simulator equipped with artificial intelligence. Examples of that AI include eye tracking, where HAL's eyes are able to follow students, or an ability for him to produce his own responses without the need for an instructor to relay through a microphone. This sort of simulation technology has really caught up with the nursing field, Heather told us, in large part because of the COVID-19 pandemic. When COVID-19 limited students in their clinical site training abilities, instructors needed another means of teaching students crucial hands-on skills. Brendan?
All right, Mackenzie, thank you for that. Now, not only did we get the chance to see Hal in motion, but he's just one of several high-fidelity simulation mannequins at the site. MassBay also has a child mannequin for pediatric purposes, along with an infant, as well as Victoria, who is fully capable of giving birth. In fact, she is the most advanced labor and delivery patient simulator in the world. Fascinating stuff for sure. We here at The Frame would like to thank all nurses for the important work they do for our communities, especially my mom, who has been a nurse for decades now and is still going strong over at Boston Children's. So shout out to Mom. On to the weekend weather forecast now. A mostly cloudy outlook on Friday. Highs in the low 60s and lows in the mid 40s. There's going to be a chance of showers on Saturday, mainly after 2 p.m. Otherwise, partly sunny skies with highs around 60 and lows again in the mid 40s. There could be some rain late Saturday night into Sunday morning as well. That chance of precipitation continues into Sunday afternoon. Cloudy and breezy then, with highs in the upper 50s and lows around 50 degrees. We're going to step away for just a moment, but when we come back, a preview on a number of weekend events locally, along with some updates to regional transportation. Stick around. The Frame will be back after this.
Hello, my name is Mary McGill. I'm the president of the Friends of Callahan. Our mission statement is to promote greater community interest and perpetuate the dignity and well-being of our senior citizens. The center offers important social services, including support groups, multicultural activities, and much, much more. There are also a wide variety of activities such as exercise classes, cultural programs, movies, bingo, chair volleyball, a monthly luncheon, and travel. My personal favorite happens to be chair volleyball, played indoors. These activities and services are found in our monthly courier. We offer something for everyone, and we hope you'll join us in our dynamic community. We are located at 535 Union Avenue, and you can email us at callahan.friends@yahoo.com.
Welcome back in. There's plenty of events happening across the city this weekend. The city's family fair will be hosted by the Early Childhood Alliance of Framingham on Saturday at the Memorial Building. From 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., activities and performances will be on display for local families. Then, Downtown Framingham Inc.'s annual Spring Fest will be taking place at the Downtown Common from noon to 4 p.m. that same day. Residents of all ages are invited to enjoy live music, offerings from local vendors, outdoor art pieces, and more. Elsewhere locally, a follow-up meeting regarding community gardens projects will be taking place at the Amazing Things Art Center on Hollis Street on Saturday from 2 to 3:30. Feedback on designs for possible community gardens at Bates Road Park and Roosevelt Park will be accepted during that session. We'd love to see if you're out and about in the community at any of the local events this weekend. Reach out to us on social media. You can tag us on both Instagram and X at FrameNews_. Daily updates can be found on both of those accounts. Also, subscribe to the Access Framingham YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to get notified whenever new episodes of The Frame go up every week. You can find us on Facebook as well. Just search for The Frame there. A trio of new summer routes are being launched by the Metro West Regional Transit Authority. From June 9th through the end of August, riders will have access to a number of outdoor recreation spots like Farm Pond, Wayland Beach, Saxonville Beach, and Washacum Beach through the three routes. Full schedules will be made available in the near future at www.mwrta.com. Also, the MBTA has announced that its express train service on the commuter rail from Worcester to Boston, which features a stop in Framingham, will be returning in mid-May. The city has begun a program to plant 28 public shade trees along both Grant Street and Arthur Street. Existing strips for tree planting between those roads and the sidewalks will be used for the trees as a way to build more of an urban canopy. City officials hope these trees can boost the area's appearance, reduce heat for pedestrians, as well as offer other environmental and health benefits. And finally, residents will be able to take a tour of the city's new public health office and clinic at 188 Concord Street, right next to the Memorial Building, on Tuesday, May 7th. The first floor of the building now features a nursing office with a vaccination clinic for children, a multi-purpose conference and training room, a resource lobby, and more. If you're interested in the tour, you're invited to attend the event, which will be held from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. That will do it for this week's Framingham News in Focus. For everyone here at The Frame, thank you for spending time with us tonight. I'm Brendan Fitzpatrick. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.